Hello and welcome. We are so excited to be previewing Alien: Fate of the Nostromo with John Lee Brody from GEGGHEAD and Scott Rogers, the game designer.
Also, please be sure to check out our upcoming Ravensburger game weekend, August 7th and 8th, where we're not only introducing our new lineup of games, but you won't want to miss the full gameplay of Alien: Fate of the Nostromo as well on that weekend. But before that, let's get a sneak peek by diving into an unboxing of that game right now.
Yeah, so GEGGHEAD, take it away.
Tuck and Chelsea, thank you so much for that awesome intro. Shout out to everybody at Ravensburger, especially Cassidy and PJ. Gotta give love to you first. Hi everybody, I'm John Lee Brody, co-founder of GEGGHEAD. We are here with a special collaboration with Ravensburger Games. We got this game right here, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably about to be my favorite board game of all time, Alien: Fate of the Nostromo. We're here to unbox this bad boy, but I'm not doing it alone. I've got the creator, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Scott Rogers. They say don't trust a man with two first names, but I trust you. Scott, how you doing?
Great, John. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And so you designed Alien: Fate of the Nostromo.
That is correct.
So can you give us a little bit of history in terms of how this came about? Are you a fan of the franchise? Obviously, it looks like you are. Just based on this box alone, you seem to know your way around this Alien universe.
I do know my way around the universe. What's funny is, so when the movie first came out in 1979, my parents banned me from seeing the movie. And they said this movie is too violent, we're not allowed to see it. But I was fascinated by it. I had already fallen in love with Star Wars and I wanted to know everything about science fiction movies I could. So I took my lunch money and I would go down to the local, there was a dairy nearby that also sold candy, and I bought the Topps bubblegum cards. And I eventually just bought so many of those, I was able to piece together the entire story of Alien without actually ever seeing the movie.
Wow.
So it wasn't until a few years later when I was in college that I actually then saw the movie first I saw it on VHS, like a lot of other people did, and then I eventually saw it on a glorious 70mm showing here in LA.
Speaking my language,
Yeah,
right there, 70mm.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
For those of you who don't know, if you know, you know. But if you don't, get yourself some 70mm. If you can get a 70mm screening of anything, especially Alien,
Oh yeah,
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful film. But also, I am a huge fan of the movie. I watch it every year, at least once, whether I need to or not. I've read...
You do need to.
Yeah.
To be clear, you do need to watch it once a year.
I consider the original movie one of the most perfect movies ever made. Just in terms of the acting and the cinematography and the story and the effects, everything, and the music, everything about it is just perfectly done. And so, for me, it's always a joy to go back to that universe and fall back in love with the visuals and the characters, and then, of course, go through the thrill, the roller coaster ride that is the film. So when the opportunity came up, I have a relationship with Ravensburger. There's several designers that they reach out to, and so when they have an opportunity to have access to a license, they will come to us and say, hey, we need a game based on this IP. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this because Alien is one of my top IP of all time. It was on my bucket list of games to make something for. And so I went ahead and put together a couple of pitches for games, board games based on the IP. They saw one and they asked me to elaborate on this. So the process is it's kind of like pitching a movie. You pitch the idea and do it in very broad strokes. And then when they ask for more details, then you start to, in my case, I replicate the game, but I do it as like a mock-up. So I'll take pieces from other games and make my own version. So I had an alien monster from some other board game that I had pilfered, and I had little space astronauts that I painted to kind of use as the pieces, and then I drew out the board and photoshopped some cards that had images from the film.
Right.
And so I took stills of these things and showed, all right, this is how you play the game, this is how you move the characters around, and they said, this sounds great, let's make this game. And so then I actually had to make the game, but fortunately it turned out fantastic.
I love that, and I love that this is like a movie you watch once a year because you need to. Let's be clear now. Everyone should watch Alien at least once a year, but what a cool full circle kind of kismet moment for you to be here right now. We got the box in front of us, and I think let's just jump right in. You mind if I do the honors?
Oh, please go ahead, because you have no idea what might spring out of this thing.
Okay, so we were talking about this before we started rolling the cameras, that Alien is as much a horror movie as, if you mention Poltergeist or Jaws or Exorcist or The Omen, you got to mention Alien with that too, because this is as much a horror movie as anything.
Well, it helps set the trend for these types of movies. Like you said, the modern horror genre was really just getting started. I mean, 79 is not so far away from The Exorcist or Jaws or any of those films. And you know, if you're counting, this really is like the fourth or fifth major theatrical release of this modern horror film. And so it's a classic. It very much fits in with all those other classic movies you mentioned. But it also, so many things were taken from it, like so many tropes that are now tropes were taken from Alien. It was such a groundbreaking and trend-setting film.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's unbox this thing. I'm going to do the honors right here.
Yeah, please. I'll stand back.
I'm a big fan of jump scares too, so in movies, in horror movies. Okay, all of you watching, if you haven't seen the movie, then maybe this is kind of lost on you, but this is so true of kind of the tone. Like, I need a moment here to kind of look at I'm looking at Jonesy's beautiful face, beautiful hissing face.
Does it make your heart jump a little bit?
A little bit, you know. And this, it more makes my heart sing, because I'm such a fan of horror, and I love that Ridley Scott, I feel like, was kind of the OG of, a lot of movies do these kind of fake scares, and a lot of times they use a cat, but, you know, so I feel like this is the OG of it. Unless someone out there knows one that did it before Alien, please let us know in the comments, or yeah, don't DM me on Instagram. Just let us know in the comments. But this is so true to the tone of the story, like the signatures of it, and Jonesy is such an integral part of the Alien movie, as we all know. So I already love this game just from looking at this alone. But there's more to it.
Well, Jonesy first of all, Jonesy had to be represented, and that idea that Jonesy was, you know, at that one point in the movie where they're looking for the alien and Jonesy startles all of them, I was like, that's such a perfect moment that has to be represented in the game. Now, it's not just this. Jonesy actually, we'll see how he comes into play in the gameplay.
All right, well, I love, like, I'm more of a dog person, to be honest, but I do enjoy trivia about Jonesy. Jonesy's like the exception. Even though Jonesy didn't really help at all on the Nostromo, but
Jonesy was being a cat.
Yeah, which is, you know, there's a word that comes to mind, but I'm not going to say it. Let's see what else is in the box. So this okay, so this looks like it folds out.
Yes, that's
some sort of a map.
That's a board, yeah. And we have the interior of the Nostromo.
Look at that. How much insight did you have into this design here?
So the design, I designed the map and worked with Ravensburger. They actually came up with a great idea, which is that the map actually represents two layers of the ship, just like it is in the film. So this area here is the top area, the mess hall and mother and the bridge, and then this area here represents the lower decks, which is the garage and that. And you actually have little ladders that you can take to move from top to bottom level.
That's fantastic, and we'll get more into that when obviously we're going to play the game at some point when people. But that's really cool here, and also you got some Easter eggs in here. We talked about this a little bit, so
yeah. So we wanted to make sure that there were a couple of little fun things for the people that were looking at the board to find. I'll point out one of them, and that is my favorite, which is right here in the med bay. There's a burn hole, which is when they cut the face hugger off of Kane, yep, and it drips through. And so down here on the lower deck, we have the corresponding burn hole in the floor.
Poor John hurt, and he had to do it all again in Spaceballs too.
Yes.
Imagine that, he had to do that twice. All right, so this is important. This is I love the look of it. Report issued by Dallas Arthur, of course. That's our captain of the Nostromo. And this is interesting. So if you haven't seen the movie, this probably won't make sense to you, but it says right here, Officer Kane is deceased. So at this point, that's already happened. That's why you have those asset holes in the Nostromo on the board.
Right. So when designing the game, one of the first things I was like, well, what kind of steps do we want? Where does the player start? And because we wanted to have as many players and characters as possible, it made the most sense to start after the alien chestburster had happened.
Oh,
So the downside is that unfortunately Kane is already dead and shot off into space.
Right.
So he's not in the game per se, but everything else from that point on is represented in the game.
His presence is known, especially if you're a fan of the game. Like, we all know, like, oh man, like, we already got the transmission from that planet. We shouldn't have gone there in the first place. You shouldn't have looked at the egg so closely. Why'd you do that, Kane?
Yeah.
Is it because maybe he's related to Bob Kane, and Bob Kane wrote Batman, and Batman always wants to, like, go out and do... Because remember, he volunteers first to go to that planet.
Yeah, I don't know if Bob Kane would have volunteered to go first.
Batman would have, though.
Batman definitely.
So it might have been like, oh, well, my great uncle wrote Batman back in the day, and I'm going to be the real Batman. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'm just trying too hard to mix properties.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're adding some canon that maybe doesn't quite exist.
Yes. Yeah. You never know. You never know. So this looks like we've got the self-destruct sequence
Yep.
in Nostromo right here. So
Yeah.
if you know about that.
Yeah, that takes place before the finale of the game. Some of the finales involve the ship self-destruct.
And I love that we have, again, there's a lot of kind of meta, kind of inside info here, but it's not going to be a big deal if you weren't a hardcore fan of Alien, but I love that this is, I'm guessing, Ash,
Yep, that is
our
Ash.
science officer, but if you saw the movie, you kind of know the twist of his character,
Right.
which is why I think it's really cool how he's lit this way, kind of like very mysterious, you're
Right.
not sure what's going on.
So Ash was a really interesting design challenge in the fact that as a fan, I knew he had to be in the game. It just wouldn't have made sense to not have him in the game at all. But there was a request that there was no betrayal mechanic in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to make a game where everybody could have been an android, right?
Mm-hmm.
No spoilers, but Ash is
It came out in 79, so I think it's
Ash is a robot. But it didn't make sense to have like Ripley be the android or Dallas
Sure.
or Brent or whatever. And at one point we said, okay, we don't want the betrayal. At one point he was a playable character, but then if the betrayal would happen, he'd become a non-player character. But it didn't feel right. Like we play tested it that way, and it just didn't feel right. But I said, I still want Ash in the game. And what does Ash do through the whole movie is he pretty much hampers, like he lets them in, he breaks quarantine, he doesn't give them information about what's going on, he's in contact with Mother and not telling them.
kind of quietly sabotages their mission.
Exactly, he quietly sabotages is the perfect way to describe it. And that's what he does in this game, is he quietly sabotages the player's effort.
Damn it, Ash, why'd you have to be... I mean, my favorite Ash, I mean, it'd be funny if they just all of a sudden had Bruce Campbell, to hear Ash, I think. So
Different Ash, yeah.
Different Ash, but he may have still done the same thing to the Nostromo crew.
Well, I could see Bruce Campbell as an android, right?
It could be, for sure. Oh, I love... Okay, I'm going right to these right here.
Yeah, of course.
Kind of little figurines.
The candy, right?
This is very much so. So we've got
The big chap.
this one right here, and then Alien. Look at that.
Yeah, he's beautiful. These are all sculpted by Brian Dugas, who's an amazing sculptor who's been making games for years, and he really knocked it out of the park on these guys.
So shout out to his name one more time.
Brian Dugas.
Brian Dugas, shout out to you. Job well done.
Yeah, they're great. The likenesses, I mean, they're miniatures, but you look at those faces and you know who they are.
I mean, this is... Tell me that's not Sigourney Weaver. That's right. I mean, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's great. The craftsmanship is very on point. So we've got, all the things you would expect from a game, which is a co-op game, so we're working together essentially on this. So we've got our objective cards, which are going to come into play. We've got some counter cards, which are going to...
Yeah, that's the AI that drives the alien around the ship, and Ash as well.
And then we've got, of course, as any good board game does, you have your card that your kind of cheat sheet that tells you what you need to do, which is going to be very important because I obviously have not played this game yet, and I think you know the lay of the land a little bit, so you'll be able to help
Right
us
now,
out.
I am the galaxy's best alien player.
No lies were told just now. Right? Just let me just tell you that right now. So we've got these, right? This looks like
Those are finales. So
we got 5 different scenarios we can go through.
Yeah. So just like so one of the interesting things afforded to us as board game players is we get to play what if with these scenario with this IP. In the fact that things are still going to happen, bad things are still going to happen to the crew. The alien is still going to be stalking through the ship, and Ash is still going to be causing trouble. But then, when I was designing the game, you don't want it to end the same way every time. It gets a little boring, a little predictable. Mm-hmm. So I took inspiration from some other games that are out there, including Ravenberger's Jaws game, which is really great.
Which is a great one.
Yeah, and that has a second act to it. And I really love that idea of the second act of gameplay. So once the players have gotten all their objectives done, then you flip over the finale, and there are different objectives, and some of them are some of them are harder than others. But they all have to do with something that was either said in the film or implied in the film or actually happened in the film. So one of them, for example, is Dallas has this line where he says, let's get into the airlock and flush it out into outer space. And so I said, oh, that's a great way to get rid of the alien. Let's make that an objective for the players. So there's this kind of alternate reality that could happen in this game where you might be able to win by shooting it out of the airlock of the Nostromo and not have to blow up everything in the ship.
I think that's genius. I love that because it's like the choose your own adventure juxtaposed into the world of war games, but we're in the status quo of alien.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So this looks like our character cards.
Yep.
Of course, I'm glad Ripley's on the top because she should have top billing with
Yes.
this because Ripley was in the movie. Spoiler alert, not really because it came out in '79, but Ripley was the lone survivor of the Nostromo back in the day.
The heroine.
Yes, absolutely. So we got the immortal and the incomparable Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
There. Thank you for approving your likeness for the game.
Oh, I was thrilled that we got likeness rights because sometimes that doesn't always happen with
No,
board
it
games.
does not. I've had my fair share of experiences with that.
Yeah, so being able to see these really gorgeously rendered portraits of the characters for me also was a big treat.
Really, I love it. We got
Dallas.
Dallas. They nailed the Hawaiian shirt on Brett because that was his thing.
Yep.
You told me you own this hat.
Yeah, I do have that.
You already own that.
Not the real one, but I have a copy of it.
As far as I know, I'm going to say it's the real one. You heard it here. And we got Parker, who always just wants his bigger cut of the share. Like, he's all about, like, I need more shares, man.
Yeah, the late, great Yaphet Kotto, man.
And then Lambert, who's often forgotten about because, you know, unfortunately she suffered at the hands of the alien.
Right.
But
Well, and one of the fun things about this was, of course, as a cooperative game, you want to have the roles mean something, right? You don't want it to just be like, oh, I'm playing the pawn of Brett, and that just means I'm green. But there had to be abilities attached to them. So taking inspiration from games like Pandemic, for example,
Sure.
each of the characters has some sort of benefit or ability that behooves their personality. So, for example, my favorite, I think, in the game is Lambert.
Okay.
And Lambert is, now granted, she is a nervous wreck through, you know, most of the movie,
Right.
but she's also, when you listen to how she talks, she's also the most sensible and cautious of everybody in the ship. And so her ability is to look at an alien encounter card ahead of time, to spend an action to do this. And if she doesn't like it, she can go, we're not going there, put it at the bottom of the deck, and then you'll have to draw another one. So that gives her a little bit of a power that you know, she didn't get to use it in the film as much, but I felt that it was a good, equitable ability of how she acted in the film.
she's almost like the analog version of Nia Nall from DC Comics. You know? Like, she could dream it to happen, but like she just, you know, gets to look into the future a little bit. I love that. So that's really cool that Lambert gets that kind of power in the game because, you know, unfortunately, you know, there's one survivor, but and then she was the other female.
But she's the one that's like, let's just get the heck out of here, right? Who will take our chances, you know? And so she was like, I don't want to deal with the alien. Let's go the other direction.
Absolutely. Dallas, I love all the character art. I love that we have the actual likeness here. It's very rare in board games. Doesn't always happen, so we're very lucky to have that. So shout out to every
Ravensburger and Fox and Disney, right? They worked together to make sure that happened, and that was awesome.
That's amazing. Well, shout out to Fox and Disney as well. We appreciate that very much. So that's all the contents of the box right now. So
Don't forget the thematic box.
Talk a little bit about this then before.
Well, I mean, for those of you that know the movie, there's that very iconic visual of that padding that is in the hallways of the ship, and so the theme. You know, we made sure that this thing was literally impregnated with theme, right? So it goes all the way down to the insert.
It would be fun. It'd be fun if maybe this one had all the lights in it, so that's freaking top and mother. That's the only thing I can think of here. Like we had a bunch of like little.
Well, we do have Mother's chamber on the ship, so
we do.
We'll get to go. Maybe we'll see how Mother interacts with us in the game.
Well, maybe we'll have like an anniversary edition, and we will have like the little LED lights, like a little special edition, like the steelbooks on Blu-rays. You know, we do the same thing.
If it sells enough, who knows what they'll do.
Well, you heard it here. I mean, you can purchase this. I think anywhere board games are available. So just keep that in mind as we unbox this, and hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on what the game's about, the contents of it, but also the creator himself. Because any chance when it was presented, the idea was presented to me, bringing you on, I told Cassidy at Ravensburger right away. I said, any chance I get to shine a light on badass creators like Scott Rogers, then let's bring him on if he's into it. And luckily you said yes. So I'm glad you're here for the unboxing. We got to play this game too. So what do you say to you want to guide us through a little playthrough of the game?
I'd be happy to, but remember, we might not survive.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm ready to do this. I'm for the fate of the Nostromo, pun intended. I'm willing to do that.
All right, let's give it a shot.
I got two really badass friends that are going to join us in the next video. Their names are Rio Magdaleno, who is a regular on the GEGGHEAD channel. They got Vanessa Marshall, a OG of GEGGHEAD. So we've got two very capable crew members that are going to board the Nostromo with us. I think we're up to the challenge.
All right.
As long as you're there with us.
I'll help guide you through.
All right, I love it. So thank you everybody for watching this unboxing video for Alien Fate of the Nostromo by Ravensburger Games. My name is John Lee Brody. I'm the co-founder of GEGGHEAD. Remember, sure you subscribe to our channel, also our social media, twitter.com/GEGGHEAD. Actually, just GEGGHEAD across the board, across all social media. Scott, do you have a social media that people can follow?
I do. You can find me on Mighty Bedbug on Twitter and Instagram.
It's quite the name. I'll get the story behind that another time because I really want to get into playing this. But Tuck and Chelsea, I'm going to throw it back to you at the Ravensburger Studios. Until then, I'm John Lee Brody. On behalf of GEGGHEAD and Scabby Rooster Studios, wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you to GEGGHEAD, and it was so awesome to see Scott Rogers as well and learn a bit more about the behind the scenes of the making of Alien Fate of the Nostromo.
Yeah.
Personally, the shipboard looks really cool to me.
Yeah, and I am a huge fan of everything of behind the scenes and just background information. I love to hear what goes into designing of board games and how people get inspired to make them. So I very much love that part of it. And also, John Lee Brody, we appreciate you attempting to create your own canon with Bob Kane.
Yeah, we are here for that. But in all seriousness, just like GEGGHEAD, we're really looking forward to getting our hands on Alien Fate of the Nostromo. We are huge fans of great co-op games, and this one looks really suspenseful and thrilling and has some really good replayability, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and so just as a reminder, be sure to check us out on August 7th and 8th for that Ravensburger game weekend, where not only will GEGGHEAD be doing a full gameplay of Alien, where we'll get to see it all the way through and not just that really great unboxing, but also we'll get a sneak peek at a full lineup of all the new games that Ravensburger has coming out, which I am so looking forward to.
There are some really cool ones. You won't want to miss it. So be sure to join us August 7th and 8th.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.